All right, welcome back into the metaverse. Today we're going to be diving into Axie Infinity and some things that are happening with Axie. There's a lot of big news. We want to break all that down for you guys. My name is Paul Barrow. Welcome back to Metaverse Insider. Let's get into it pretty quickly here because we got a lot of things to cover. And I want to start off with this tweet right here, which is pretty straightforward. The Ronin bridge is now open. Mavis obviously has reported or reopened the Ronin bridge and ensure all user funds are on their way back to their original holders. So this is a good thing. Let me kind of pop up on this image right here. They kind of break it down for you here. So you've got almost all of it recovered and on its way back into the Ronin bridge right here, except for the Axie DAO, which is about 56,000 ETH, equivalent to around 67 million USDC. So good stuff. I think this is good for the Axie community. It's also good for, I think, the health of just how crypto and crypto gaming will continue to grow, because this in itself is great science. It's one of those things that I think when we look at projects, you always want to see and make sure that, if not that they're fully secure, but even more so that they have due diligence to be able to kind of hold true with what they're trying to do from a mission standpoint. And I think Axie has been able to really do a lot around that. Let's get in over to their blog post. The Origin update phase 2 is here. There's a lot happening here. Just to kind of quick break down leaderboard rewards, the room charm reset, leaderboard reset, and more. They kind of break it down in here. First alpha season obviously is alive now with 49,000 Axies in rewards reserved for the top 10,000 players. So that's going to be a big payday, which is really great. And I think this is something that we talked about in our own crypto pit a lot, is the value of Axie going to continue to hold? Obviously, right now, if you're watching in the charts, it's got a little bit of a move. But the real question is this a long-term play? And one thing that one of our guys brought up was that, listen, this is one of the few games that is constantly rewarding its members and players for winning battles. And that, in essence, is the core of how it maintains consistency within the community itself. So good stuff happening. Early access on the leaderboard, 10,000 players are going to get the rewards. The season will run through July 28th. SLP earning will begin on phase 3, so that's going to be good. And then expect more rewards once we reach season 1 and the game is more balanced and polished. So I like this, and the fact that we're going to see a global launch this fall. If they are on track and they're able to hit a fall launch, timing could be really interesting here for Axie, especially if you're looking at Axie from just an investment standpoint. I want to talk to you quickly about their UI improvements, which is, this is kind of interesting. These guys use Google Docs to kind of track all this stuff. Simple and yet elegant, but I also think it kind of just matches up with what Axie is doing in general. So they're kind of showing some graphics in here that they're updating quite a bit in the way of game graphic updates. I think here's number 2, the potential point to charms. This is the inventory aspect of it. Then you go to item 3. This is the rune clarity. Runes no longer show effect star number below, which is going to cause players to confuse them with stacks. Rune is going to have this pure instinct component. Now shows the correct icon instead of the 3 different icons in the other runes. If you're an Axie player, you know what I'm talking about. If you're an Axie investor, the main thing is that you want to see teams continuing to create value within the game. And that is what I think Mavis has been able to do, is they continue to improve not only on the gameplay, but also the economic side of things within the game itself, which in my opinion is probably the most important aspect to how a game evolves and keeps a community really plugged in. And if you look at their breakdown on the alpha leaderboard, this is going to be the reward payout. So you can look at the number 1 player all the way into 6 through 10, and then obviously we see the 500 to 1,000, 1,000 to 10,000. So there are quite a few players that are going to get a little bit of a payday, but that number 1 guy is going to get $8,000 per player, 500 Axie at the current rate. So good stuff. I think this is a really good leaderboard breakdown. Other news coming over is in 24 hours, Axie is, of course, planning on releasing the anticipated land staking. Let me kind of zoom in on that one right there. And it is happening. So there is a countdown available on this, but it is going to be available. I think this is only going to increase the value of Axie Land in general. land staking. I'm kind of curious when you guys are, if you own Axie Land, drop some mentions down in the comments below. I'd love to kind of get your feedback on what your strategies are for NFT land overall. We're doing a lot more coverage of that here on Metaverse Insider with our new host, Cheryl, and we are trying to break those things down. I'm kind of curious of your input. Love to kind of get your feedback there. If you want to follow the page, you can just jump over here to explorer.roninchain.com and just find your way into the actual countdown. This is the 13 hours in, so that's coming very shortly here on Friday, July 1st. Coming up fast, so good stuff for sure. Another tweet right here, coming over here on Origin, phases and advancements plans, all next, Axie Infinity Origin. Early access updates, you're going to have 4 phases, more balance changes. How's going to be the seasonal reset? I think the question there will be is how they evolve Origins into really going to be a global mobile game, which I think is really the direction of where Sky Mavis is going. And when we had Alexander on the last time, we talked a lot about Origins and kind of we probably should get him back on the show because I think the roadmap for Origins is one of the most key things that you should be watching right now. SLP into V3, NFT runes, we just talked about that in the global launch. Here's a little bit of their breakdown on phase 1, 2, 3, and then phase 5, or 4, excuse me. Global launch, first official season. You'll get moon shards in the resets, leaderboard reset, and then get seasonal reset there as well. So I think that's going to be cool for continuing to build community, because that's really the aspect of how this continues to be a big play to earn game. Let's go over to the Axie staking dashboard. Lots happening here. It's continuing to climb. Obviously, with the fact that we've got land coming in, you've got season 2 essentially rolling out. You've got Origins developing. There's a lot happening within Axie right now. And if you think about this token, if you're just investing in Axie, maybe you're not in the ecosystem or in the player system, this should be really popping. Even though it is moving up the charts and, in terms of performance, it's still undervalued in my opinion. Now, will we see it potentially go lower with the market pressures and things of that nature? It may stabilize a little bit. I'm very intrigued to see if Axie breaks away from traditional crypto. And what I mean by there is Bitcoin and some of the big altcoins, and really some of the major metaverse tokens, including Axie being one of them. So we'll take a look and see how that goes. If you want to go over to Nansen and take a look at the Axie staked in US dollars right now, you'll notice that back here in April, this was kind of the fall off. Remember, this is Terra Luna, pre-UST, all of that, just the FUD that just came in on the market and really crashed. And I think we saw a lot of that really hit Axie, which is why we saw a sub $20 Axie. But if you'll notice, it's been climbing, and then it had a little bit of a dip right here, and then boom, here we go right here. We are moving up again. So up again from under 300,000 USD, it looks like, yeah, or 300 million, excuse me. And it looks like it's going right up. So again, could be on another climb here. I'd really like to see it do some stuff like back here when you think about what happened in January, where we started to see a real amp in terms of Axie being staked. And are you staking Axie? Are you gaining maybe just APR, maybe somewhere like Gemini? Kind of curious about your strategies of how you're holding your tokens. Hopefully you're out there earning on them right now if you are looking long-term on Axie. So kind of curious of how you're doing. I kind of have mine split in 2 places, both on staking and the Ronin bridge. Now, I will be very point blank with you. Listen, Ronin is still a little bit risky, and you have to be aware of that. And but if you're in this for the long term, I think the good thing is this could play out. If you're a more conservative investor and you're just holding tokens, I would recommend just dropping them in over to Gemini. It's I think I can't remember exactly. I think it's 4 or 5%. So it's not a bad feedback in terms of APR. Marketplace showing right now 783 plots of land potentially that's going to be rolling out. You can kind of see some of the pricing that's going to be going in here. So the real question is how this value will continue to hold, or will we see a movement of Axie Land going forward? Let me see what Mystic is going at. Less down a little bit. If you go into the forest, and then obviously Savannah. So interesting. We'll see. This is going to be an interesting play out for Axie and the land staking strategy I think that they're playing out within this whole program. Let's take a look about their revenue, because this has been one of the knocks on Axie over the last little bit. And I think when you look at the breakdown here that is really at play, you can kind of look back here. This, of course, was the big launch. You saw, obviously anytime something launches, you're going to see, significant revenue, because that's when Axie was really kind of blowing up. Then you hit that really somewhat of the top of the market in November, which was the BTC all-time high, even though they weren't necessarily the complete top, but they still 202 million. Now you've got June. You continue to see the revenue falling. This was the one reported last month, which was the first time they went under $1 million. And now we're at 259,000. This is as about suppressed as you can see the market, which is obviously why we've seen sub 20 in terms of Axie itself. So the question is, do you look at Axie as a long-term play here, whether you're just a holder of it, or if you're maybe doing something more creative in the gameplay, or actually staking Axie, or maybe going into land? Let's take a look at what Mark Cuban has to say about just that.
The tokens, the Axie tokens from users, meaning, it's earned to buy them, then you're going to run into problems. And so we went from play to earn being this great thing, and helping people in the Philippines, to, okay, it's barely hanging on, and no new play to earn platforms have succeeded that I know of. Do you guys know of any that have worked?
Not yet. Axie's been it, man.
Yeah, and Axie's got that. If Axie would have gone in, and they still can do it, and I hope they do. And even though I'm an investor, I don't really have that kind of connection with them just to tell them what to do. But if they're out there selling ads and sponsorships, and then taking that money and buying tokens from the people who are playing to earn, so that there's some, there's a replenished economy, that works. If I buy one of those NFTs, you take my money, you buy some SOP, etc. Like Anchor, they wanted to be able to do loans.
So what you see there is really Cuban looking at a long-term position here with Axie. Obviously, he is an investor. That kind of changes games a little bit, in the sense that, sure, you're trying to protect your investment, but the fact that someone like a Mark Cuban is still so really committed to what the vision of this is, and he mentions on a couple of things there that I think are important, and that is, with all of the games and play to earn that we saw cycle out of the last bull run, and what we've seen in terms of new gaming, and remember, January, February was still a lot of new games coming onto the market, Axie was still performing. And to me, that shows a great quality in how games can make it long term. Could this be one of those AAA kind of aspects where you get a game run for a decade? And it could very well be. But again, back to my earlier point is, if they continue to put more and more rewards in, this is not going away. And we could be looking at some very interesting times ahead in terms of overall. If you take a look at what Alexander talks about here on this tweet, make sure to follow Psychout88. We've had him on the show a couple of times. Too many people compare Axie to their favorite PC game, which is AAA. We're targeting the mobile games market, which is 3 times bigger. Now, he makes a very good point here, is that if you think about the evolution of AAA and how mobile gaming could maybe really carve out a certain segment, and I want you to think also about the potential for the new players in emerging countries that are mostly mobile first as opposed to PC first, which is a big problem on barrier to entry outside of the big countries like the US, EU, etc., all the countries there that are into gaming. We could see an explosion of how mobile gaming, and I think they're going to one of those things. Old Gretzky, phenomenon is skate to where the puck is. Go to where the market is leaning, and that is mobile gaming. It's all about accessibility, not fidelity. Axie aims to be fun, easy to earn and learn, and then hard to master. And look at this on just overall on spending on games. See that right there? You can see mobile gaming course just absolutely exploding, which is really kind of the point he's making on the future potential of Origins and why this is so important in the overall strategy of Axie. So Good stuff, leaning in, I think, on where this is going. So excited to release the game on Google Play, iOS later this year. Big deal. After further testing, shout out to the Sky Mavis for staying focused on these turbulent times. And again, I think this goes back to teams that build versus teams that promote. And this is something that I talk a lot about in the gaming sector, is there is a lot of games out there that are promoting, and they never deliver. Or the delivery gets pushed back, and then they finally deliver and they've over promoted, and you get that over promise, under delivered kind of model. I think Axie takes a little different approach. I think they under promise and over deliver. So that to me is a good thing for the future of Axie. As I said, I'm still a big Axie fan and love it. And this is one of the tokens that we do follow on our crypto power index, which is our metaverse index. And what we look at, let me just show you this, guys, because maybe you guys aren't into this. Go to our website. You can just, if you are a CPI member, you just jump over here to Metaverse and Gaming. And these are the tokens that we currently track. And obviously Axie, Gala, Sandbox, etc. So in looking, and you can jump around to any one of these, but let's just take a look quickly at Axie. And as you can see, obviously we've seen Axie on the floor for quite some time over the past month. And a little bit, but an interesting thing right now, even though it was slight, this was our data yesterday, pre all of this news, and we were starting to see a little bit of a lift out. It was a slight lift. My anticipation, we're going to see some amplification moving up when we drop our CPI data this week on Friday, and we may see some movement on Axie in the short term, especially with land staking. Obviously, all this news, I think this will continue to make its way into media. Then people will start looking at it and go, wait a minute, this thing's been on the floor for a while, might be a good buy. Definitely one that we are watching very, very closely. If you're looking at holding Axie long-term, these are great dollar cost average opportunities. If you're looking at maybe doing trades on it, let's just be cautious. You want to make sure that it's staying in line with where Bitcoin is, because Bitcoin is still the guiding light in the industry, and Bitcoin is now under 20. And that's a big issue that you got to follow very closely. All right, you guys are tuned in over on the podcast side of things right now. Make sure and catch our other podcast, which is Tech Path Crypto. And then also jump over here to the YouTube channel, because this is the place where you're going to catch all these charts, all this kind of cool stuff. And it is also the place where we do a ton of interviews. And it's a great place for you to comment and engage with our community. So first of all, get in there, do that. Make sure and like and subscribe so you get notifications of our live shows, all that kind of stuff right here on the network. And we'll catch you next time right here on Metaverse Insider.